This is The Healthy Healer, where true voice is your medicine. This is where we help doctors and other healers navigate through the challenging times by learning from the best minds in the healing industry. Laugh, cry, and be surprised. It's entertainment, education, and inspiration so you can continue to be the unique and amazing healer you were destined to be. Welcome to humanity. Welcome to The Healthy Healer with Dr. Fred.
Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Fred from The Healthy Healer. And this is the aftermath short that I have created on the back end of my conversation with nurse Keith Carlson earlier this evening. So, one of the things that's really interesting about Nurse Keith is that he always has me thinking, what does it really take to be a kind and gentle soul? And more than anything else, what does it take to be an exquisite human being and someone, in the meantime, who can be of service and be a healer for others? And I think Nurse Keith actually personifies that as much or more than anybody I've ever met. So I'd like to speak to what I heard and what I gathered in our conversation on my podcast earlier. So, one thing I notice is that if you're going to be exquisite, if you're going to be with somebody, if you're going to be a great human being, there are a few qualities that are really important. Number one, being honest is a good quality. There's rarely a time that being dishonest is something that is worth taking on as an attribute. It's not an attribute. It's not something that's positive. It works against you nearly all the time. So even when you're protecting yourself rightfully by being dishonest, you then have to remember that, and you have to actually recall it and make sure that that you're honest, that your dishonesty actually permeates all the people and areas that you're trying to be dishonest to, which is nearly impossible. Whereas being honest specifically about how you feel and how you think and how you're being about things actually leaves itself open to being to not having to remember what you said or what you did. And then you have an opportunity to actually change your mind in any given moment and continue to be honest. So being honest actually is a fair representation of who you are and is worthwhile as a pursuit. Another thing that I think is really important is being curious. Like being of service to other people is critical. And there's, uh, very few examples in the philosophical literature, as well as in the religious or the humanitarian literature, that doesn't speak to the power of being of service to other human beings, of being a companion, of being someone who's, part of a team, of being someone who is in, the tribe with other human beings. And in order to do that, the object here is to really listen. And in order to really listen, one has to be genuinely curious about what the other person is saying. If all you're doing is hearing, you're not listening. And if you're not curious, you're not listening. Because instead, I know that when I become less curious, I become more interested in what it is that I'm going to say next than whatever it is that the person is answering, whatever question I have. So when I'm curious, I'm actually interested in what is going on over there with you or with them or whoever I'm speaking to. And that opens up the possibility for me to learn something. And when I learn something, when I actually gather what it is that you're trying to say or they're trying to say or express themselves in whatever way, I give them the opportunity to be heard. Ultimately, what people want more than anything in this lifetime is to be heard and seen for who they are. And in order to be that kind of human being where you can provide that space for other people, being curious, being honest, and being a great listener are three of the most important attributes. Now, also, when I say being honest, it includes things like doing what you say when you say you're going to do it. So it includes being honest and when you make promises, actually sticking to them. Sometimes that's a little bit dicier. I know for me, sometimes I say I'm going to do something and I end up not doing it. And it doesn't feel good when that happens. So being honest means also being honest to myself, and being curious about myself also means being self-reflective. And then listening to myself also means listening to the nuances that my body or my mind or my spirit are bringing my way, so I can learn how to redirect myself to avoid, making wrong or difficult or hurtful decisions, and to find myself actually traversing down the pathway of uh, increased uh, satisfaction in life. So I invite you to really take on what it really means to be honest, curious, and a great listener, because that's, to me, those three things, if you're doing those all day, every day, have made you without question into an extraordinary human being, almost no matter else, whatever you're doing. So please take that on. And I get that Nurse Keith takes that on each and every day. His mannerisms, the way he speaks, the words that he chooses, his articulation, his emphasis are all beautiful in such a way that he's a man who truly cares about humanity. And you can feel, see, and hear that in each and every utterance that he makes. So I invite you to take that on as well, because it makes life rewarding when you can live a meaningful life. And one way to live a meaningful life is to be honest, curious, and a great listener. Thanks for being someone who likes listening to The Healthy Healer. And thanks for being a listener on this show. I truly appreciate you. And if you appreciate what we're doing in this show, I invite you to like or share or comment on the show. And for sure, at least subscribe, because that's the way we get the kind of amplified um, exposure that gets people like you to be able to hear and listen and be with what it is that we're bringing forward. So thanks again, and we'll catch you on the flip side in the next episode of The Healthy Healer. Bye for now.